Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Nonprofit Show. Well, it's 3 in the afternoon to 6 p.m. in the evening somewhere in this country every single day. And we have a guest who's going to be talking to us about what that means for our communities. JonPaul Reed is joining us today, along with Wendy F. Adams. She's a CFRE and one of our intrepid co-hosts. Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you, thank
you.
you.
It's going to be a great conversation and something that Wendy, we haven't really talked about this after school ecosystem very much on the nonprofit show. So it's going to be a good conversation, isn't it?
It is, and it's brought me back to a nostalgic place of after school specials. So, this Gen Xer is interested.
I love it. Yeah, me too. Yeah, you're kind of dating yourself and me. Hey, we get to be here and dating ourselves every day because we have amazing partners. They include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Your Part-Time Controller, Third Sector Company, JMT Consulting, and Intuit QuickBooks. I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. More importantly, I'm joined by Wendy F. Adams. She's a CFRE, and she's the CEO of Cultivate for Good. One of our faves. I love all of our co-hosts equally, like, a mother has to love her children, but it makes me very happy when I see your name pop up on that screen, my friend. So.
Love it.
I want to briefly mention that we have launched a new series of episodes, 1 to 2 a month, called the Nonprofit Show Global Edition. We're just focusing on international philanthropy, and that's being co-hosted by Matthew Murray, who's based in the United Kingdom. Very interesting episodes, really cool to get a different perspective. And so make sure you join us on that. JonPaul Reed, he's the founder and executive director of Pure Momentum Group and also the founder of Athlete University. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. I want to say I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the opportunity and the platform. So I've been really appreciative.
Oh my gosh, we're appreciative that you would take time from your busy day and share with us all of your knowledge. So talk to us about, give us, I mentioned this in the green room, give us your elevator speech so we know where you're coming from.
So Pure Momentum Group is a part of a larger group, which is Pure Momentum, which is our parent company, and Athlete University, where we focus and specialize in development and exposure for student athletes. So we're one part development, one part exposure, one part mentorship, one part recruitment. Pure Momentum Group specifically was the arm of our organization that we created for those that were disadvantaged, those in empowerment zones. There's a lot of different um, ways to describe it, but it's there to pick up the slack for those that need help. One thing that I didn't want to create was something that was money based. I didn't want kids or people to not have access because they lacked resources. So we created an organization that found different resources to aid parents and caretakers in providing these resources to children.
JonPaul, what part of the country are you in? Where is your work actually occurring?
Oh, it's an interesting question. So I am in Sanford, Florida. Our Athlete University, our home base is in Sanford, Florida. We are based in Central Florida, Orlando. I guess is what most people are going to
Mhm.
be familiar with. But our work takes place a lot of places because we've been operating this organization for a while, and we've had athletes grow and go in different places. So we do outreach, and one thing that's important is to stay connected to the foundational pieces or the
Mhm.
founders of what you've built. So, but our day-to-day operations take place in Central Florida, Orlando, Seminole County, Orange County in Florida.
Okay.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so that kind of level sets the conversation. It makes me, and this is only a perspective, but I feel like there are a lot of athletic programs for students, like schools and trainings and camps that come out of Florida. Um, and is that just me, or it seems like I'm always
No,
hearing
it's
about
true.
they
It's
come from
true.
Florida?
It's true. It's the weather. I mean, like one thing
Uh,
is, it's I'm not gonna say perfect weather because I just recently went to Hawaii and realized what perfect weather really was. But for an American perspective, the weather is pretty good year round. So there's a rainy season, but kids can be outside majority of the year. 80. We might get 2 weeks of cold weather throughout the course of the year. So, and then you have a lot of people that retire. A lot of athletes come back to Florida.
Hmm.
It's for a lot of different reasons. It could be income based. It could be tax based. So a lot of ex athletes come and plant themselves here in Florida. So there are, I would say proportionally, there are probably a higher ratio of athletic programs here in Florida. But I mean, California, these are other states too that I would say, but Florida definitely has this market share. We can say that for sure.
Interesting, interesting. Well, let's talk about this issue of, these hours of 3 to 6 and how they can have a really strong, maybe even a lifelong impact on children. What do you see here, John Paul?
Um, as far as the hours of 3 to 6 p.m., I mean the reality is kids are in school from 8 to 3, and parents don't get off till 5:30, 6 o'clock. So once we've once teachers have been relieved of their duty because they do a tremendous, amazing job, there has to be something to come in to fill that gap. And so this 3 to 6 p.m. time frame, it's not just for children, it's also for preteens and young adults, because not only does that time fit in the space of when there's no coverage for kids, right, from a parental standpoint, but there's also this need to develop a skill set, a monetizable skill set. And the 3 to 6 p.m. time frame is that time that's generally allocated because it's kind of a time frame where parents and families have not recollected, so to speak.
Yeah,
Everybody's doing their own thing. So there's this window and this opportunity to nurture, to develop, to continue that growth process, whether it's in a skill or some kind of activity. So we think that it's not important to us. It's important to everyone. We're just either taking advantage of that window or we're not.
I love it. I love it. John Paul, we hear 3 to 6 and we say, okay, school's out, teachers are done, parents haven't been able to re engage yet. They're still working, finishing their workday. That's a gap. But what you just really shifted that mindset from, it's a gateway, it's an opportunity for us to be able to use what we can say is a gap in someone falling in and say, no, what can we do to launch them forward? And that is what resonated with me, how you shared.
Absolutely, Miss Wendy. This has been my life for the better part of 10 years, 6 years. I mean, so I do it every day. I just dropped off for a field trip. So, and even though this is the summertime, this window is extended during these 2 months. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So it's very, very important, but it's important for people to understand, like, we live in a competitive society, right? Competition is a part of our day-to-day life. Like, you ladies run a podcast, you understand, what it takes to separate yourself. So I think the danger that we're running into now, we're not going to get into all of the nicks and crannies of the tablets and what COVID did and how kids became sedentary lifestyle became more prevalent and what it left our children. Before all of that, we still lived in one of the most competitive societies in America, in the world.
yeah,
So if we're not
interesting.
teaching our children how to compete, how to separate themselves, how to monetize skill sets, we're not preparing them for the world we're leaving them in. And that's the burden, or the duty, not burden, the duty that we wear on a day-to-day basis. And it's just the reality of the world we're living in. We're not taught. We haven't even gotten into touch into AI and how it's going to affect and change the world and things. So I just think that a child needs to have an intense work ethic and an
Mm.
ability to have a short memory. You know what I mean? And to understand that no one owes you anything, but
Yeah.
everything is there at your disposal, and you've got to connect with certain people who are resources and understand what a resource is. So
Mm.
biggest thing we do in our program is we use different terminology. We try to increase these children's IQ on a day-to-day basis, like their knowledge base, their verbiage, right? We want them to understand the terms the rest of the world's using so they're
Mhm.
not lost. You know what I mean? Investment. That's the word I use a lot. Hey, are you investing in yourself? Or are you investing in someone else? Are you a
Mhm.
good investment? Are you making good decisions? A term that we use here, a phrase is, don't let your emotions overpower your intelligence. Right?
Ooh.
And it's we've heard it before and it hits differently, but for these children, everyone always says this, but for the children, the generations that are to come, this country was built off the back of work, off of effort,
Mhm.
off of sweat equity, right?
Mhm.
And we're kind of pacifying them into thinking that that's no longer a thing, right? And
Mm.
so what it does is it sets it up to where the kids who have those work ethic, that drive, the determination, that grit, can't lose, and the other ones will be subservient to those people. And I just don't. I can't allow people who are around me to think that that's an option. I just can't. It's just not my. It's not in my DNA. I'm from Mississippi. Just to give you ladies a quick background, and I have a saying: I'm too country to quit. Right? Meaning, like, I mean, honestly, I'm only here in
Yeah,
front of you. I'm only here in front of you, ladies, because I just don't know when to quit. I don't know
yeah,
when to quit. I
yeah,
don't hear no. There's
yeah,
no such thing as a bad idea. It's just poor planning.
yeah.
Um, and so I try to give that portion of me to those that have never been exposed to it.
Wow. So let's talk about this because I'm hearing so many things that make it that bleed into sports and bleed into competition. And you have a really interesting piece about sports and mentorship within that time and programming with kids. Talk to us about how you navigate that because frankly, I feel like when I was growing up, and I'm much older than both of you, probably like combined.
You
Um,
don't look it though.
well, thank you. Everybody could do sports,
Mm.
right? But now I feel like it's become more elite. Kind of like if you haven't been identified at age 7, 8,
Mm.
9 as having the potential to go into a higher caliber sports environment, the normal kids can't play. And I don't know if that's just me, but so how do you kind of pull this all together for kids that are never going to be professional
Well,
athletes?
I think the biggest thing is to understand, identify the reason for sports, right? Like,
Mm.
Mm,
why are we in need of any kind of activity, be it sports, be it dance, whatever it is, right? You have to have a goal or a purpose for being a part of something. And I think that, teamwork and working well with others are the basics and the fundamentals, because even with us, like, I've worked with kids that have gone on to be Division 1 athletes, pro athletes. But I always tell the parents, the goal is to get into college, right? Well, before we can get into college, we have to make our high school team. Before we can make our high school team, we have to create good habits. So there's a fundamental baseline that's necessary for Michael Jordan and also for Barack Obama. Both play basketball, right? Love it, you know. But
yeah.
one became the greatest basketball player ever, one became the first African American president ever. But that fundamental baseline existed in both of those human beings, and the gifts and the talents and the fundamentals were there for all of us. So I think the issue you have, you identified it correctly, that there is a disconnect, and that's because of the money, the way
Yeah.
that these adults have been allowed to monetize children's efforts,
Mm.
which makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. But it's a
Mhm.
part of it, right? I'm not a hypocrite. I do monetize my skill set. But I think that there is a level of opportunity we must offer all individuals and access. And I think that that's where the line has been kind of distorted.
Mhm.
I do feel as if a lot of parents have a big role to play in this, because we choose what
Yeah.
environments we keep our children in and for
Yeah.
what reason.
Yeah.
And I think that we make too many concessions, and we at the end of the day, I'm a child care provider by profession, right? But even
Mhm.
if I'm not a child care provider, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. I should be in it for a certain reason, and even if I'm not, or if I lose sight of that, it's up to the parents to check me or to hold me accountable, and that's not happening consistently because we're chasing things that have no value. And I think that, to answer to wrap it up, I think that our value system has been distorted as much as anything. And once you don't value the right things, or if you and I don't value the right things, there's no way we can be on the same page. There's no way we can end at the same goal. So it's just, I don't know. It's become very monetarily based, and I think that that's the problem. And once it became about money, it's about winning, and once it's about winning, it becomes less about opportunity and more
Yeah.
about socialization and like what do they call it? The click mentality.
Mhm.
Where we like these people for this reason,
Yeah.
and then we start making concessions for kids who do things they shouldn't. It just
Mhm.
everything just gets out of whack after a point. But I do agree with you 100%.
Wendy, I mean, you and I are both like, whoa. Okay, now I love how you just articulated all this because you gave me some new ideas that I have been like, I've been able to see, but I haven't been able to articulate it. And I love that you took me through that arc because now I understand it. My follow-up question is, are you able to communicate this to like the parents and the teachers and the kids so that they understand it? Because that's a big lift.
Yeah, that's the job. You know what I mean? If I,
Mhm.
I wouldn't, if I couldn't do that, I wouldn't be here. And I think that that's what's allowed me, as they say, to cream the rise to the top. I'm gonna give you a quick story that happened this morning. I had a kid, one of my kids that comes to camp. Parent dropped him off at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I generally give. We don't really tell on the kids. My philosophy is, if you don't tell on me, I won't tell on you. We handle a
Mhm.
lot of stuff in house, right? That's to
Mhm.
build a relationship. But every day here is a learning experience. So we had one of the kids, he's been here for 3 or 4 years, and the maturity just isn't there. So he had an incident with a younger kid a couple of days ago. And obviously he was justified in what he did, but the reality is I'm not seeing the maturity level where you go above and beyond and show me that you're becoming a leader. So I
Mm.
decided to take the opportunity, and this what happened like 2 days ago. So I didn't take the initial opportunity, but when mom dropped him off, I just decided to have a conversation. And I just had to tell mom, listen, like, hey, I love him to death. But because I love him to death, I must be honest and say I don't see the decision making and the maturity of a person who's been around me or been here for 3 years showing
Mhm.
itself. And it's not to criticize, it's not to say, hey, mom, you're not doing the right thing. And that's the easy thing for us to do, is to take things personal. But the reality is the child has to be accountable for their actions. Every person has to be accountable for their actions. And even there's another, as a phrase, I like to use a lot of phrase. Ignorance of the law does not excuse you from it, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
one being an African American, one being from Mississippi, everybody understands and knows the stigmas and all of those things that come with it. So I don't use that as a crutch. I use that as leverage, right? It
Mhm.
gives me insight and the ability to understand that I don't have second chances. I don't fail. I
Right.
don't miss. You know,
Right.
like I have to own up to who I am and what society expects of me, and I got to be better, right?
Mhm.
And so if I'm not living that on a day to day basis, I'm giving away my opportunity. And so we had the
But John Paul,
conversation. Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I can't let this go. So I got to interrupt. What you did with that parent was you brought them into the partnership, right? This
Yes,
is
ma'am.
not a solo act that you're doing. And when Julie asked the question, are they getting it? Well, that's how you've
Yeah.
got to say, hey, we're in this together. Right. And so
Absolutely.
I need to let you know. Likewise, when you do start to see that rise in that maturity, same thing. Let's celebrate what I'm seeing. And are you
Yeah.
seeing that too? And all of a sudden now we've got this strong partnership, this tribe that's building around this student, this child. So I think that's something that I want to make sure we highlight before we move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and it's a buy-in. Like, it's all about buy-in. You got to know your personnel. And you gotta get
Mhm.
buy-in. You got to build a culture. I'm an athlete, right? So
Mhm.
the goal is to win, right? You ladies are doing this podcast. Your goal is to win, right?
Mhm.
So we all
Mhm.
have to. I met Kevin. It's a group. It's a team. So we
Yeah.
we have to wear the wins and losses together. My wife, she does a tremendous job. Renee, she's the director here. I used to tell people, like, I'm the hammer. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I do, right? I put things in place, whether they're supposed to be there or not. But my wife does a great job of celebrating these children and, getting them snacks. And I pull up and it'll be ice cream truck and 50 kids outside. And I'm like, okay, this is my tab, right? But it's how you it's how you show them that you're paying attention to them, even if they're doing good or bad, right? Because they're children. They're gonna have good days, bad days. And parents, hey, one thing they taught us in our training, you don't want to tell parents at the end of a day that a kid was bad or this or that, right? So
Right.
timing is everything too. Like, I don't want to tell
Mhm.
you that at the end of your day when I'm mad and he's mad and everybody's mad.
Mhm.
So timing, it plays a big part in it too. And also
Mhm.
understanding, like, look, Tommy, this is you. Jerry, this is you. Alex, this is you. Erica, this is your life. Like, we're here to support
Mhm.
and, help you, guide you on the way, but it's your yellow brick road. I'm just watching the movie. You know what I mean? It's
I
reality,
love that.
So,
So let me ask you then, because I love your theory and your practice and your intent. How do you communicate that to the community at large so that you garner support? Because at the end of the day, you can be the smartest, best deliverable of a program, but if you can't get buy-in from the community, and I'm
That's right.
talking about dollars,
Yes.
you can't move forward, right? So how have you been able to get these people on the same page with you?
you want to know the first thing, the most number one important thing is to do the work. I'm an athlete, so I got to be in the gym. I got to be working, right? So the
Mhm.
first thing is you got to be doing the work. So now, even in our organization, things have shifted gears to now it's an election cycle and all of
Yep.
this stuff's going on. So now I'm going doing these appearances. I'm going and sitting down with commissioners. I'm going introducing our program. I'm putting in proposals. Currently, we got a couple of proposals in. One with the city of Orlando, one with Orange County. We deal with the centers directly. You just gotta have that understanding of, like, listen, there are people who care about this issue, and I must, one, present it in a right way. So I think the biggest thing that I did was I got tired of, like, having conversations with people, and I was the most passionate person. So I repackaged my delivery into a book, right? And the book
Mm.
now, which is called the 3 to 6 p.m. Blueprint: Building Successful Kids and Thriving Communities. You can find it on shameless book plug, but you can find it on
Oh,
Amazon. um, but that was the number one thing, and it also kind of, like, it kind of took the elephant out of the room a little bit, because
Mhm.
sometimes I get in the room and my passion just takes over, and other people are like, "Whoa, all right, this guy really, if he's really passionate." But the book now, it puts it in a perspective of, if you haven't even read the blurb on the back or read the initial, then we don't really have anything in common, because you're not gonna really understand or feel why I'm passionate about what I do. So I think that those people who are out there trying to figure out a way, packaging and the way you present your message is very important. And then also, making sure that you're consistent with your follow-ups, you're requesting meetings,
Mhm.
you're active and taking, content. It's important. I'm bad about it, but it's important. But I just think that there's a combination of things you have to do, and the reality is, and then make sure your paperwork's secure too. Like, we all talk about having a nonprofit, but you can be a nonprofit and not be tax exempt, right? Those are different
right,
things, right?
right.
So understanding that you've got to do the work and make sure that your paperwork is secure. So when
Mm.
you do get those opportunities, people see you as legitimate, and they have a record, and they're like, okay, yeah, how do we get involved? How do we help? And you just want to make it easy for people. You know what I mean? So I just think there's a combination of things. But repackaging my message into a book and going through and now, like, doing these interviews and giving people an opportunity to hear is the most important thing. You have to be accessible. That was the tough part. I dealt way better with kids than I did with adults for a long
Interesting.
time. you know,
Interesting. Yeah,
just because sometimes parents are distracted, and
sure.
kids. We understand why kids are distracted, but parents sometimes, it's hard to kind of get on the same page. But I had to really step back, and my wife has done a big good job on getting me to slow down and say, listen, the buy-in has to be from the parent side, right? We've got to articulate to the parent. We got to slow down and make sure that they understand that we love them, but we're not going to allow them to be anything other than the best version of themselves as a standard. And then now the parent doesn't feel like they're all alone. But yeah, I think that from a perspective of the nonprofit, package your product and package it well, and also get the right person to speak for you. I don't always do the initial introduction anymore. I have a assistant who presents me in a way that I can't present myself, and
Mhm.
they're consistent. And I think that letting go of some of those roles has allowed me to fit well into what I do.
Well, and
Interesting.
I think when you talked about the blueprint, and we'll have to check that out, that gives that opportunity, like you said, for legitimacy when you're having those conversations with business leaders and you're out in, public sector, for them to be able to recognize those outcomes, right? It's not just my passion, and that definitely pours through, but it's your passion, and now this is how it works. We can replicate this. Here's a blueprint how to do that, and I think that is a strong piece to what Julia was asking, like, how do we get that out in front of? Why will it matter to them? This is why. Because I'm sure when we start talking about those students and what that then becomes for their future, well, that's going to affect workforce, right? And everything that we're talking about in our communities, it's not as a little snapshot, it affects us all. And the blueprint's going to tell that story. So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree. I would also add, and this is like, me putting my coaching hat on.
Yeah.
Oh my God, your passion is like your secret weapon. And you might be really, too much in the room, but have the courage to be that way. Have the courage. Do not walk away from that, because I think we're living in a time where courage is being diminished and people
Mm-hmm.
are afraid. They want to, they're kind of trying to tamp down themselves until they get out of control. And I think, funders, partners, even your constituents, they want to see that passion. They want to be a part of it in a safe way. And so I would encourage you, and it's not my place to do this, but I would encourage you to say, don't lean in. I don't know, Wendy. What do you say as a
No,
coach?
absolutely, absolutely. And I've got a close friend and a coach who takes that grit, that courageousness that you were just talking about, and passion, and she calls it moxie. And that's exactly what you have, John Paul. It's that moxie. We're going to
Yeah,
get this done, and here's why. Because it is that ecosystem that's going to affect all of us. So, no, I think you're exactly right. We can't shrink back.
yeah,
It'll affect us all if we do. So,
yeah.
phenomenal work.
Yeah, really exciting to hear from you, JonPaul, and to get in the mind of somebody who's doing this type of work, because it's really hard to know where we stop and start. And I could spend so much more time with you talking, and our time has gone by super fast. But I want everyone to know how to get a hold of JonPaul and to see what's going on. Um, it's really interesting. I don't do this very often, but we did have somebody that just reached out live during the show, and they wrote, "You folks are amazing humans. I talk to a lot of nonprofits every day, and you guys have energy. Your community is so lucky to have you." So, see,
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Those are the moments that make it real. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not without its challenges. Like,
Hmm.
I started this in
yeah,
2020. We literally opened up in 2020. It was like COVID hit we opened in January, COVID hit in March, and whew, things got real. Right. And so I had to show that moxie day one. It
yeah,
was like, it was like like Zombieland, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Literally.
yeah.
And you understand that this is when you're needed the most. We've been fortunate. A lot of support from parents that were there from the beginning, and just being willing to go into these environments, these city municipalities, and be willing to kind of. You have to be willing to put yourself up to be critiqued and
Mhm.
judged. And so I think that that's one thing that people really gotta understand about this. If I'm going to put myself on this platform, and I have to be able to take criticism, be it constructive or just accusatory, whatever it is,
Mhm.
I have to be willing to do it to put myself in position. And I think that through doing that, I've learned how to communicate with people in different stations. And I think that that's the one thing that I would say about myself, like I'm comfortable in pretty much any room. Um, Even when it's not something that I want to do, I understand the
Yeah,
the
you have
need
to.
to do it. you know. So, but I
Well, we
Well,
appreciate it.
you're modeling the behavior.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's been amazing. JonPaul Reed, he's the founder and executive director of Pure Momentum Group. He's the founder of Athlete University. Look him up at puremomentumsports.com. You can follow him on LinkedIn and really learn more about this great leader. We need more people like you, JonPaul, in our communities, and we are just delighted that you spent time with us today. It's been really wonderful. And I think, Wendy, I'll speak for myself, but this is why I love the Nonprofit Show. We get really interesting people on from all parts of the world saying and doing great things. And so bravo to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, you ladies are doing a phenomenal job with this show and just offering a platform to, because regardless of what, I'm still a little guy. You know what I mean? I am where I am. I'm
We
making a
are too.
dent, right? And so it's important. It's a, like, just that feeling of, I don't even know what that is I just experienced, but just that kind of gives me the boost to kind of
Good.
continue to go. So it was a good, you know, whoever it was that reached out and was.
Your team. Oh, and we just lost him. Hey, we have amazing members of our team, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Your Part-Time Controller, Third Sector Company, JMT Consulting, and Intuit QuickBooks. Hey, on behalf of one of our stellar co-hosts, Wendy Adams, we are so appreciative that you could join us today. And we have JonPaul Reed back on. JonPaul, we end each and every episode of the Nonprofit Show with this message. And I'm speaking directly to you, my friend. And it goes like this: to stay well so you can do well. We'll see you again, everyone. Thank you.